If this is your first time starting to use Appwrite, see our 101 video on how to install Appwrite. Once you're in the Appwrite console, you can create a new project. Let's call ours Flutter Getting Started. To get started on Flutter App, we're going to select Flutter App. We're just going to name this My Flutter App. Because I'm on macOS, I'm going to select macOS. Now we will add the Appwrite SDK to your package's pubspec.yaml file. I'm just going to open up VS Code and create a new project. Here in VS Code, we could either use the command line to do flutter create, or if you have the extension, you can easily go to flutter new project. For this project, we're going to create a new application. Once you select your new project folder location, you can name your project whatever you'd like. I'm going to stick with the default Flutter Application 1. This will bring up a new VS Code window. Once the flutter create command completes, you'll see that you have a new application ready for editing. I'm going to go back to our console and copy the correct dependencies. Scroll down to select the pubspec YAML, and here where you see dependencies, you can include the Appwrite package number. Once you save, Flutter's pubget should run. Now that we've installed the Appwrite dependency within our application, we need to initialize the client. If we go back to the console and proceed to the next step, you'll see that we can init our SDK. I'm going to place the import in the top of my main.dart package. Now we'll take and initialize the client. We can do this in the stateful widget. Here I'll update initialization. I'll take and change the constructor from a const since we're using a client setup that is not a constant. You actually don't need the self-signed, so we'll remove that for now. Now, instead of having a counter, we're going to include a new list called country. In order to include this, you'll notice I have models.country. This can be found as well in the Dart package. Instead of appwrite.dart, we're going to do models.dart as models. This has all of our typing, so we can be type specific when making our calls. Now that we have the correct type, and we have an initialization for our countries, we need to update our method. Instead of this incrementer, we're going to create a new method called getCountries. In this, we'll specify a new locale. On this locale, we're going to call the method listCountries. And this will be every time we click the button. So down here, we can change out this text and the onButton command. So this will now be getCountries instead. We have to switch around this view a little bit so that we can actually scroll all of the countries that we'll have listed. What we can change here is changing out the center widget for a single child scroll view. This will allow the content to keep scrolling. Within that single child scroll view, we're actually going to provide back the widgets as countries. So here we'll set our children to our countries state. We'll map them to text and we'll display each country's name as a list. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now we can run our debug. Depending on what platform you're targeting, you may have to update certain files. Please read our Getting Started for Flutter on our docs page. As you can see in this pod file, we are targeting the platform OS X 10.14. Our packages require 11. The easiest thing to do at time of recording is to hit search for 10.14, change that out for 11. As you can see, we have our new demo homepage. If we click the plus button that used to be called increment, this will actually throw an error. For us, because we're aiming for macOS, we need to update a couple of files. If you're just debugging locally, you can update the debug profile, entitlements, and we can add the new key for security. So this is our client security instead of just server. If you're going to release this application, you would also need to update release entitlements to include that as well. Now that we have those updated, why don't we go back and rerun the debug. And with those new entitlements, we should be able to call our API successfully. So that is all based off of our Locale API. Make sure to click subscribe so that you can see more advanced examples in the future.